Story 1, Wisdom for Sleep, The Jade Mirror, Reflections on Seeing the True Self. Hey guys, tonight we are going to explore some timeless Zen stories that have helped people find peace and relaxation for centuries. If your mind's been racing all day, these tales might gently pull you back to the stillness waiting within. In our busy lives, it is easy to forget that calm is not out there, it is already yours to uncover. So, before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. And I would love to know where you are listening from. Drop your location and your local time in the comments. Now, dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let us ease into tonight's journey together. You sit quietly, as if before a great mirror, only this mirror is not the kind that shows your hair, your clothes, or the curve of your smile. It is a jade mirror, cool and smooth, said in Zen lore to reflect not your outward face, but the truest self hidden beneath the layers of habit and thought. You imagine running your hand across it. The way polished stone feels almost like water under your fingertips. The old Zen masters say this mirror has been with you since before you were born, and it will remain long after your body fades. It does not crack when the world insults you. It does not cloud when your emotions surge. It waits patiently, silently, for you to notice it again. The Buddha taught that every being carries this innate clarity, a pure awareness, untouched by the dust of daily life. Let that sink in, no matter how heavy your burdens. There is something within you that remains clear, steady, and unbroken. You remember a story of a wandering monk in China who came to a small temple at the edge of a mountain. The abbot showed him an old bronze mirror hanging by the altar. Tarnished and dark, this is what happens to our minds, the abbot said. If we do not polish daily, dust collects, and soon we see nothing but dullness. The wandering monk smiled, because he realized the polishing was not just with cloth and metal, it was with breath and mindfulness. Each inhale wipes away worry. Each exhale softens attachment. That is the quiet art of polishing your own jade mirror. Think of today, how many thoughts sped through your mind like restless birds. How many worries left their smudges across your heart. When you finally sit still, it is as though you take a soft cloth and gently wipe at those marks. Not harshly, not with impatience, but with care. Isn't it true that even the busiest day loses its sharp edges once you slow your breath? Some Zen monks practiced polishing their awareness in unusual ways. One story tells of a monk who stared into a bowl of water every morning at dawn. He did not fix his hair, did not even blink much. He just watched the surface until his own reflection seemed to dissolve into ripples. To him, this was not vanity, it was a reminder. Your face is temporary, but the water's depth is endless. What would happen if you treated your mind the same way, less like a photograph to be perfected, more like water reflecting sky? You may notice the gentle hum in your room right now, the fan, or maybe the quiet of the night. Each sound is like dust landing on the mirror. Yet when you listen without resistance, that dust also disappears. The surface clears not by rejecting sound, but by embracing it. Could it be that even your distractions polish you, if only you let them? The jade mirror is not some hidden relic in a monastery. It is your awareness, shining behind your eyes even as you lie back. Zen teachers often say, turn the light around. It means stop shining outward, stop searching the world for validation, and turn that gaze back into yourself. What do you see? Not a fixed self, not a perfect one, but a quiet watcher, endlessly present. Picture this. You are walking along a forest trail, and a puddle of rainwater rests in a hollow stone. At first, it looks murky, filled with leaves, but as the breeze settles, the water grows still, and suddenly you see the sky mirrored in it. That is how your own mind works when you stop stirring it with constant thought. Doesn't it feel good to know peace is not something you have to invent, it arrives the moment you stop stirring? Zen masters might ask you, who is it that looks into the jade mirror? Is it your mind? Your heart? Or something deeper? If the reflection changes, what remains unchanged? And if the mirror itself is only a teaching tool, what happens when even that disappears? For now, though, all you need is to sit back, breathe gently, and let the jade mirror shine through. Its reflection is not about fixing, or improving, or even understanding. It is about resting, calmly, in the awareness that has always been yours. You rest a little deeper now, almost as if you have taken a step closer to that jade mirror. The air feels softer around you, your breath steadier, and as you lean into this quiet, you begin to notice how often your mind collects the dust of daily living. A single conversation from earlier still lingers. A half-finished thought keeps circling back. The glow of your phone screen leaves an echo in your imagination. Each of these is just dust. Nothing more. And yet, without realizing, you sometimes mistake the dust for the whole mirror. That is why Zen masters speak so often about polishing. The Buddha himself gave a simple teaching. Mindfulness is like holding a lamp in the dark. With each moment of awareness, the shadows fall away, and the surface of the mirror clears. You do not need to make it shines naturally when the dust is gone. That is the secret. You recall a story about Huining, the sixth patriarch of Zen, when the monks were asked to write a verse about the mind. One wrote, "The body is a Bodhi tree, the mind a bright mirror stand. Always diligently polish it, and let no dust alight." It sounded wise, yet Huining offered another verse. Body originally has no tree, the mirror has no stand, the Buddha nature is always clear. Where could dust alight? The difference between the two verses is subtle, almost playful. One says you must polish forever. The other says there is nothing to polish at all. Which one feels closer to your own experience? Do you feel like you are wiping away endless dust? Or like you already carry a mirror so pure no dust can truly touch it? In your daily life, polishing the mirror can look simple. Washing dishes, but really feeling the warm water over your hands. Walking down a street, noticing each step rather than racing toward the destination. Even the act of listening right now, hearing my voice against the hush of your own room, is polishing. You might smile at the thought. Is not it funny that something so ordinary is also sacred practice? A quirky Zen story comes to mind. There was once a monk who polished an actual brick every day. Without fail, he sat at his hut, rubbing stone against brick until the edges glowed faintly. When another monk asked why, he said, "I am polishing it into a mirror." The other monk laughed. "That is impossible." But the polisher replied, "Isn't it just as impossible to polish the mind by forcing it with effort?" The teaching was hidden in the absurdity. Sometimes polishing means softening, not striving. Now, you notice your own breath again. Isn't it true that with each slow inhale, your chest feels lighter, as if sweeping clean a cluttered room, and with each long exhale, the dust drifts off like motes of light in a sunbeam? You do not need to push. The mirror clears itself when you let the breath do its work. Zen practice often plays with this paradox. You must polish the mirror, yet the mirror is already clear. It is like watering a plant that grows on its own. You care for it, but you do not command it. Could it be that the real polishing is not effort, but trust? Look around your space. Even with your eyes closed, you might sense the familiar shapes: the bed, the chair, the ceiling above you. None of these need fixing right now. They simply are. In the same way, your inner mirror does not need fixing, it only needs noticing. You may even imagine the jade mirror right now in your own heart, faintly glowing, breathing with you. Each thought lands for a moment, like a petal on water, then drifts away. leaving the surface unbroken. The mirror does not complain, does not cling, it just reflects. Isn't that a beautiful way to live, reflecting without grasping? And as you lie here, perhaps you feel the corners of your mouth soften into the gentlest smile. Not because everything is perfect, but because you are polishing your awareness just by resting here. Like the monk who smiled at his brick, you polish not for the result, but for the joy of the practice itself. The jade mirror gleams a little brighter now, not because you have forced it to shine, but because you have allowed yourself to see through the dust. As you settle deeper into stillness, the mirror no longer feels like an object outside of you, it feels like your own awareness itself. Smooth, luminous, boundless. This is what the old masters meant when they spoke of emptiness, not as nothingness, but as the clear space in which everything can appear. The Buddha once taught, form is emptiness, emptiness is form. Imagine looking into the mirror, your face is there. Yet it is only a reflection, real, yet unreal. That is how all of life works. The things you cling to, the worries, the plans, the little victories are just like reflections. They shimmer for a moment, then vanish. What remains? The mirror itself, open and spacious. There is a Zen story of a monk staring at a mirror in the temple hall. A young novice came in and asked, "Master, who is the one reflected there?" The monk tapped the glass and said, "When the mirror shatters, where will he go?" The novice frowned, puzzled. Later, sweeping the floor, he realized the reflection was never truly there, it was only light and perception. Could the same be true of your worries? They seem so solid, yet the moment you stop feeding them, they vanish like a reflection when the mirror breaks. Right now, listen closely to the sounds around you, maybe the faint hum of your fan, or a car in the distance, or simply the rhythm of your breath. Each sound arises, lingers, then fades. The mirror of awareness holds them all, without judgment, without preference. You do not need to chase silence, because silence is already there, waiting beneath every sound. Isn't that comforting? Some lesser-known Zen practices were deliberately odd, designed to make the student taste emptiness directly. One master asked his students to stare into a blank wall for days, doing nothing else. At first, they grew restless, imagining shapes, reliving memories. But eventually, the wall became no different from the mind itself, empty, yet reflecting everything. Could it be that when you sit quietly, even boredom is a teacher, showing you how reflections are never solid? Let your breath guide you into this. With each inhale, notice the way your chest expands, as though welcoming the world. With each exhale, notice the letting go, like releasing smoke into open sky. What if every exhale were a reminder that you do not have to hold on to anything? Zen masters might ask, if the reflection is empty, what about the one who sees it? Who is it that notices the thoughts, the sounds, the mirror itself? Can you find a solid you behind the awareness? Or is that too just another reflection, another shimmer across the jade? The mirror of emptiness is not cold or distant. It is gentle. Imagine lying on your back at night, looking at the stars. They seem endless, yet each one is only a flicker of light carried across space. Your awareness is like that sky, vast, silent, holding every star of thought, yet never cluttered by them. Doesn't that widen your heart just a little, to realize you are more spacious than any worry? Now, soften your body even more. Your shoulders melt, your jaw unclenches, your forehead smooths. Each muscle loosens as though remembering its natural state. This relaxation is also emptiness. It is the absence of strain, the vanishing of effort. In the mirror of awareness, Tension dissolves, and peace appears. So tonight, as you drift deeper, remember, the mirror shows forms, but it is not bound by them. Your true self is not the changing reflections, it is the clear space in which they come and go. And like the novice sweeping the temple, you too might suddenly realize what you thought was so heavy was never really there at all. The jade mirror feels different now, less like a perfect stone and more like something alive, pulsing with your own breath. Yet, as you lean into it, you notice faint cracks along the surface. They do not shatter the reflection, but they remind you of the life you have lived, the mistakes, the heart aches, the nights when peace seemed impossible. These cracks are part of the mirror's story, and in Zen, they are not flaws, they are invitations. The Buddha's first teaching after enlightenment was simple and profound. Life contains suffering. You know this already. The tension in your shoulders after a hard day, the quiet loneliness that sometimes creeps in, the uncertainty that lingers before sleep. These are cracks in the glass. But what the Buddha also taught is that suffering can become a path, a doorway. Without the cracks, the light would not enter. Without the hardships, compassion would not deepen. Does that change how you see your own reflections? A Zen parable tells of a monk who carried a mirror with a small chip in it. When others asked why he did not replace it, he answered, "Because when I see the crack, I remember that even broken things can reflect the moon." That is the essence of this teaching. Your imperfections do not erase your clarity. They reveal it in a different light. You may think of the Japanese art of kintsugi, where broken pottery is mended with gold. The cracks are not hidden, they are highlighted, shining brighter than the rest of the vessel. Your own life is like that. Each challenge you have faced becomes part of the design, part of the teaching. In the mirror of awareness, your cracks gleam. Could it be that the very things you wish to erase are what make your reflection whole? Some Zen masters used quirky methods to drive this home. One would deliberately break cups in front of students, only to serve tea in the shards glued back together. "Drink," he would say, "and tell me, does the tea taste any less sweet?" The lesson was clear. The essence is unchanged, even if the form is cracked. Tonight, as you listen, notice the places in your body that feel tense or wary. They may be your own cracks, the aches, the little weaknesses. Instead of resisting them, let them soften into the mirror. Imagine those places filled with golden light, as if each crack is gently glowing. Doesn't it feel different when you see your body not as flawed, but as beautifully lived in? Zen masters might ask, what would happen if you stopped trying to fix every crack? What if the brokenness itself was the gate to freedom? Could it be that true peace is not the absence of cracks, but the acceptance of them? Outside your window, perhaps the night is settling. You might hear the rustle of leaves, or the hush of distant traffic. These sounds are imperfect, uneven, yet together, they form the lullaby of the world. Your mind is the same, fragmented, sometimes noisy, sometimes restless, yet still capable of holding peace. So as you drift deeper, remember the monk with the chipped mirror, smiling as he watched the moonlight scatter across its broken surface. Your life, too, shines through its cracks, and the jade mirror, no matter how marked, never loses its essence. It only reflects more beautifully because of them. The jade mirror no longer shows only your face, it begins to ripple, shifting like water under moonlight. What you see changes, depending on how you look. Sometimes it is sharp, clear, almost startling. Other times it is hazy, like a dream you can't quite hold on to. This is the nature of perception, is not it? One moment the world feels solid and predictable. The next it seems uncertain, fragile, even unreal. The Buddha often spoke of impermanence, Everything is in motion, nothing stays fixed. The reflection in the jade mirror reminds you of this truth. No thought you have ever had has lasted forever. No feeling has stayed unchanged. Even tonight, as you rest, the rhythm of your breath rises and falls, each moment replacing the one before it. Impermanence is not a curse, it is the doorway through which renewal and freedom enter. A Zen master once held up a mirror to his students and asked, "Is this mirror still when it shows a running horse?" The students hesitated. He smiled. The horse moves, the mirror does not. So too your awareness remains still while thoughts run wild. Isn't that a relief? To know that even when your mind feels like a galloping herd, something deeper stays unmoving? There is another story about a monk named Ryokan, who lived simply in the Japanese countryside. Children adored him because he played games with them in the fields. One night, a thief broke into his hut but found nothing to steal. Ryokan came back, saw the thief, and offered him the clothes off his back. As the thief slipped away into the night, Ryokan whispered to the moon, "If only I could give him this beautiful light as well." His reflection of the moment was not anger, but generosity. The mirror of his mind shifted naturally toward compassion. Could you imagine meeting life's intrusions with that kind of response? Zen practice sometimes looks like letting the reflection change without clinging. One quirky exercise involved monks sitting by a river, watching ripples distort the reflection of the sky. They were told, "Do not look at the ripples, look at the stillness beneath." It sounds simple, even silly, but try it yourself. Right now, imagine your thoughts as ripples on water. Beneath them lies a depth that is not disturbed. Can you feel that? Your own day has likely shifted many times, moments of business, flashes of worry, small joys tucked in between, like clouds across a mirror. They passed and changed, and now here you are, lying back, allowing the mirror to rest. Isn't it calming to know that no storm lasts forever? That every reflection, no matter how strong, will soften and dissolve. Take a slow breath. Inhale, as if watching the mirror brighten. Exhale, as if watching the reflection fade gently into stillness. Each breath is a reminder, change is constant, but peace is always available. Zen masters might ask you, if the reflection keeps shifting, where is the real self? Is it the calm face you see in the morning? The tired one at night? The child you once were? Or the elder you may become? Or is the real self the mirror itself? Always present, unchanging while appearances dance across it. As you drift deeper, allow yourself to trust that every change, the laughter, the sadness, the endless reflections are just the play of light. The mirror does not resist, it simply shines. And so do you. The jade mirror rests before you, but now you no longer strain your eyes to see. You simply allow it to be. Its quiet glow filling the space around you. In this stillness, you begin to notice a strange truth. Sometimes the clearest vision happens when you are not looking directly. Zen calls this looking without looking, a way of seeing that does not chase, does not grasp, but simply allows. The Buddha once reminded his followers that the mind, when untamed, is like a restless monkey leaping from branch to branch. If you stare too hard at the monkey, trying to pin it down, it only grows wilder. But if you soften your gaze, the monkey grows tired on its own. In meditation, this is the same. The harder you try to control your thoughts, the more they scatter. But when you sit with gentle attention, without grabbing or rejecting, the thoughts drift away, and clarity returns like morning light. There is a Zen story of a monk who sat by a pond for hours every day, simply gazing at the water. When asked what he was searching for, he replied, "Nothing. I wait for the fish to reveal themselves." His friend pressed him, "But do not you get bored?" The monk smiled. "If I looked for fish, I would miss the ripples. What would it be like if you, too, stopped searching so hard for answers, and instead rested in the ripples of your own mind? In some temples, monks practiced facing a wall for days at a time. They did not stare with intensity, but rather softened their eyes, as if looking through the wall rather than at it. Slowly, their thoughts loosened, and awareness expanded beyond focus. Isn't it interesting that sometimes the way to see clearly is to stop trying so hard to see? Right now, notice the space between your breaths. Inhale gently, then pause. Exhale slowly, then pause again. That space brief, almost unnoticeable, is like the gap between reflections in the mirror. You do not create it. You do not chase it. It is already there. Waiting. Could it be that real peace lives in those tiny, quiet spaces? Even in daily life, looking without looking can be practiced. Walking down a busy street, instead of narrowing your gaze to the phone in your hand, you lift your eyes and take in the whole scene. The buildings, the sky, the shifting people, or while listening to a loved one, instead of planning your reply, you let their words settle fully into your heart. That is also the jade mirror, reflecting without grasping. Zen masters sometimes asked riddles to jolt students into this kind of vision. One asked, "When you look at the stars, who is it that shines?" Another, "If you see without eyes, what remains unseen?" These questions were not meant to be answered logically. They were mirrors themselves, reflecting you back to the mystery that can't be solved, only lived. Now, imagine your own awareness as the mirror, not sharp like glass, but soft, luminous, like jade under moonlight. You do not have to fix your gaze on any one thing. Instead, let your mind widen, embracing all of it. The sound of your breath, the weight of your body, the quiet around you. Everything fits. Everything is reflected. Isn't it soothing to know you do not need to figure it all out tonight? That sometimes the deepest clarity comes not from looking harder, but from letting the mirror show itself. So you rest, looking without looking, held by the jade mirror that has been shining all along. The jade mirror now seems to expand, no longer bound to your own heart alone. As you gaze, you notice it reflecting not just yourself, but the faces of others, the people you have met today, the strangers who crossed your path, even those long gone but still alive in memory. The mirror does not separate them from you. It holds them gently, side by side, as if reminding you that your life is braided with theirs. The Buddha taught about interbeing, the truth that nothing exists on its own. Your breath comes from trees, the warmth in your room from the labor of unseen hands, the very words you hear now carried by countless lives before you. When you look at another, you are also seeing yourself. Isn't it that a tender thought that compassion is not just kindness? It is recognition. There is a story of a Zen master who held up a mirror to his students and asked them each to look. One saw wrinkles and frowned. Another saw youth and smiled. Then the master turned the mirror toward himself, laughed softly, and said, "All I see is you." The students puzzled over it for days before realizing the teaching. The self you cling to is not separate. Each reflection is part of one great mirror. In some temples, monks practiced bowing not only to statues of the Buddha, but also to one another. A lesser-known tradition in Korea had monks bow 3 times before every meal, not to the food, but to the unseen hands that grew, carried, and prepared it. Imagine bowing inwardly now to the countless reflections in your own life, each one teaching you something about who you are. Could it be that every person you meet is another facet of the jade mirror, polishing you in ways you can yet see? Think of someone who made you laugh today. Even briefly, their smile is your smile reflected back. Think also of someone who annoyed you. Their impatience perhaps mirrored your own restlessness. The jade mirror does not choose what to show, it reflects all equally. Isn't it freeing to realize you do not have to judge the reflections? Only recognize them right now. Feel your breath again, flowing in and out. Imagine that every inhale draws in the presence of others, the kindness, the struggles, the humanity you share. Every exhale, you offer a little peace back into the world, like polishing not only your own mirror, but there's two. Even as you lie here, you are part of a great, invisible exchange. Zen masters might ask, when you look into another's eyes, who is truly looking? Is it you? Or is it the same awareness shining from both sides? What if the mirror is not yours or theirs, but ours? Outside your window, the world continues. Perhaps a dog barks, or the night wind moves the trees. These are also companions in the mirror, living beings reflecting life itself. The mirror does not stop at human faces, it shines through birds, rivers, stars. Isn't that comforting? To feel part of something so vast, so shared. So as you rest, let the jade mirror widen. See yourself not as a single reflection, but as part of the great reflection shimmering in everyone, everywhere. The mirror of others is the mirror of your own heart. The jade mirror now feels timeless, as though countless hands have polished it before yours. You picture an old monk in worn robes, quietly rubbing cloth against stone day after day. His movements are slow, unhurried, almost invisible. This ancient polisher is not rushing to reveal a shine. He trusts that each small gesture matters. The Buddha spoke often about patience, calling it one of the highest virtues. In the Dhammapada, he taught that a patient person is like a steady mountain. Winds may blow, rains may fall, but the mountain does not shake. When you live with patience, the cracks in the mirror soften, the dust settles on its own, and the reflection appears without force. Isn't it strange that in a world of speed, true clarity often comes from waiting? There is a lesser-known Zen tale of a monk assigned to polish the temple floors. He disliked the task at first, feeling it kept him from real practice. But after years of kneeling with brush and water, he realized his strokes on the wood were strokes on his own heart. Every circle I drew, he said, was polishing the mirror of my mind. That is the quiet power of daily, mindful labor. Even in your own life, the polishing happens in simple tasks. Washing rice, folding laundry, brushing your teeth. These are not interruptions to your path. They are the path. Each small act, done with presence, is like another gentle swipe of the cloth across the jade mirror. Could it be that enlightenment is not a sudden flash, but the slow shine that emerges from countless ordinary moments? Some Zen teachers created playful practices to remind their students of this. One abbot told his monks to polish mirrors in the dark, with no way of knowing if the surface improved. When asked the purpose, he said, "The work itself is the shine. The mirror takes care of itself." Imagine how differently life would feel if you stopped needing proof of progress, and instead trusted that each mindful breath, each small kindness, was already polishing your heart. Right now, as you listen, you might notice a subtle restlessness in your body, an urge to fidget, a thought that says, "Am I calm yet?" Let that thought be the dust, and your awareness the cloth. Without judgment, breathe and wipe gently. The polishing is not a task to finish tonight. It is the rhythm of your whole life. Zen masters might ask you, what if you never reached the perfect shine? What if the joy was simply in polishing, over and over, with no end? Wouldn't that free you from the burden of results? Think about it. Every dawn brings you a new chance to polish, not with grand gestures, but with quiet patience. Each meal cooked, each step walked, each gentle word spoken. The ancient polisher is in you too, smiling softly as you carry out the simple rituals of your day. And tonight, as you rest, perhaps you feel that smile flicker within. You are already polishing, simply by breathing here in stillness. The jade mirror does not ask for more. The jade mirror that has been with you all this time now begins to dissolve at its edges. You realize the frame, the boundary you thought held it was never solid at all. The reflection, the cracks, the polishing, even the mirror itself, these were only guides, not the destination. What remains when the mirror disappears? The Buddha once taught about liberation as freedom beyond all concepts. He said that clinging to teachings is like clinging to a raft. Once you have crossed the river, you set it down. The jade mirror, too, is a raft. It helped you see clearly, helped you polish away confusion. But now you discover you no longer need to hold on to the idea of it. Awareness shines whether or not you imagine a mirror. Doesn't that feel like a weight falling away? There is a Zen story of two monks debating the nature of mind. One said, "The mind is like a bright mirror. You must keep it polished." The other laughed, "If there is no mirror, where can dust alight?" Their teacher overheard and gently said, "Both of you are still staring at a mirror. Who is the one doing the staring?" The students fell silent, realizing they had been holding too tightly to the image itself. In some traditions, monks practiced burning old prayer scrolls after years of use, not out of disrespect, but to remind themselves, even sacred words are not the truth, they only point toward it. In the same way, the mirror is a finger pointing at the moon. The moon is the living awareness, the spaciousness that holds every reflection. Can you imagine what it feels like to let the finger drop and simply bathe in moonlight? Right now, notice the openness in the room around you. The silence is not bound to walls or ceilings, it stretches outward. Endless, your awareness is the same, without the frame of the mirror. It has no edges. Every sound, every thought, every breath arises within this vastness and dissolves back into it. Isn't it peaceful to realize you do not end at your skin, but flow endlessly into the world around you? Zen masters might ask, if there is no mirror, who is reflecting? If there is no frame, where do you begin and where does the world end? Could it be that your true self has never been separate, only appearing to be so in the polished surface? Think of a sky without clouds, clear and boundless, or an ocean stretching beyond sight. No shore in view. That is what remains when the mirror dissolves. Nothing to polish, nothing to crack, nothing to reflect, only the quiet shine of presence itself. As you lie here, let yourself feel lighter. The jade mirror has served its purpose, but you do not need to cling to it anymore. Freedom is not in the object, it is in the openness that was always here, waiting beneath the reflection. The jade mirror is gone now, yet somehow, it shines brighter than ever. Its presence lingers not as an object, but as a soft glow within your own awareness. You do not need to imagine holding it, or polishing it, or gazing into it. The quiet shine is simply here, woven into each breath, each heartbeat, each gentle sound drifting through the night. The Buddha often spoke of the awakened mind as something ordinary, not distant. He said it is like water, clear, refreshing, always flowing. You do not create it, you uncover it. The jade mirror has been pointing you here all along, toward the natural clarity of your own being. And now, resting in this moment, you begin to feel it, the sense that nothing more needs to be added, nothing more needs to be fixed. Peace is not something you chase. It is the ground beneath your feet. There is a small Zen story of a monk who polished his mirror for years until one day he suddenly laughed and stopped. A student asked why. The monk said, "Because the mirror shines on its own. That latter was his awakening, the realization that even the effort to shine was unnecessary. Isn't it freeing to know that your own presence, right now, is already enough? In some monasteries, the day ends with a ritual where monks extinguish their lamps, leaving the hall in darkness. The silence deepens, yet within that darkness, there is still a gentle radiance aglow that does not depend on flame or glass. Tonight, as you listen, you too rest in that glow. The quiet shine of awareness does not fade when thoughts go dim. It is always here. Take a slow inhale now, and feel your chest rise like a lantern filling with light. Exhale, and imagine that light spreading softly through your whole body, your shoulders, your arms, your legs, all bathed in a warm, tranquil glow. Every breath polishes you, even without effort. Zen masters might ask, if the mirror is gone, what shines? If the polishing has ended, what remains? And the answer is not a riddle, but a feeling, this gentle calm wrapping around you now, like a blanket woven from silence itself. Outside, the night continues. Perhaps the wind shifts the branches. Perhaps a distant sound flickers. But none of it disturbs you. Each moment is simply part of the shine. And as you rest, you notice that your heart feels a little lighter, your mind a little clearer, your body a little softer. So here, at the end of this journey, you no longer need stories or parables. You only need the stillness already inside you, glowing quietly, endlessly. As your breath slows, feel every worry slip away, like leaves floating down a quiet stream. Peace is here, always has been. Story 2, Buddhist Teachings for Relaxation, Lady Yeshitsagyo, Tibetan Wisdom for a Gentle Heart. Hey guys, tonight we are going to explore some timeless Zen stories that have helped people find peace and relaxation for centuries. If your mind's been racing all day, these tales might gently pull you back to the stillness waiting within. In our busy lives, it is easy to forget that calm is not out there, it is already yours to uncover. So, before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. And I would love to know where you are listening from. Drop your location and your local time in the comments. Now, dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let us ease into tonight's journey together. You sit as if in a circle of candlelight, warm shadows dancing across the walls, and you begin to imagine the Himalayan winds brushing through tall grasses. In that vast, untamed land, centuries ago, a woman named Yeshitsagyo was born. They say she came into the world with the cry of a crane overhead, a sign of freedom. Even in her earliest days, she seemed destined to move between the ordinary and the sacred, between human fragility and divine wisdom. Her story begins not as a tale of a saint carved in stone, but as a young woman in a harsh land, facing the expectations of her family and the heavy traditions of her time. From birth, she was offered into a life not of her choosing, yet she carried a strength so quiet, so steady, that even her hardships became teachers. Doesn't that sound familiar? How often in your own life do the things you did not ask for end up shaping you most deeply? The Buddha taught that suffering is part of life, but also that within suffering lies the seed of liberation. Yeshitsagyo embodied this truth. She faced trials of constraint and pain, but instead of closing her heart, she let those experiences carve her open to compassion. What if, instead of asking why me, in moments of difficulty, you asked, how can this soften my heart? Would your reflection in the mirror of life look different? There is a quirky detail told about her childhood. She often wandered alone into the hills, speaking to the sky as though it were a friend. Villagers thought her strange, but she felt that the vastness above listened more gently than people did. Some Tibetan hermits still practice this today, lifting their voices to the open sky, letting sound dissolve into the wind. Try to imagine it standing outside, breathing deep, and whispering your worries into the night, knowing the sky is wide enough to hold them all. Isn't that a soothing thought? As you breathe slowly now, you may feel a kinship with her, a young girl, alone in a wild land, discovering that the earth, the wind, and the stars could be companions. You, too, are never truly alone. The air around you, the quiet sounds of your room, even the pulse in your fingertips, they are all reflections of connection. Zen masters might ask, when you look for comfort, do you see only people and places, or can you recognize the quiet companionship of the sky, the breath, the warmth of the ground beneath you? Tonight, as you rest, picture Yeshit Sogyal's gentle heart beginning to awaken in the cradle of the mountains. A heart that would grow, endure trials, and become a mirror for others. And as you picture her, you may sense a small spark within yourself, the same seed of strength, waiting patiently to bloom. The mountains rise higher in your mind now, snow-tipped peaks glowing beneath a moonlit sky. You find yourself walking beside Yeshit Sogyal. Though she moves silently, her steps as soft as falling petals. She carries no possessions, only the stillness of someone who has turned inward. Her path takes her to a hidden lake, tucked deep among the ridges, where the wind dies down and the water lies perfectly still. The Buddha taught that stillness is not something to be manufactured. It is the natural state that appears when distraction subsides. Like mud settling in a jar of water, clarity emerges on its own. You notice that when you sit quietly, your thoughts ripple across your awareness just like wind on the lake's surface. But slowly, as you breathe and soften, the ripples fade, the reflection sharpens. Isn't it reassuring to know you do not need to force stillness? It returns all by itself when you stop stirring. Yeshit Sogyal spent long periods in solitary retreat, meditating beside lakes, caves, and forests. To others, this may have looked like loneliness, but to her, it was companionship with her own heart. There is a lesser-known practice in Tibetan Buddhism where meditators stare at the vast sky, open-eyed, letting their thoughts dissolve into the expanse. No mantra, no focus, just merging with the spaciousness. Could you imagine resting like that, lying under a wide sky, letting your worries scatter like clouds drifting apart? Sometimes she would sit so still by the water that birds landed near her feet. Unafraid, they seemed to sense the gentleness of her presence. You, too, have noticed how animals sometimes trust calm people more quickly than anxious ones. Isn't it curious how your inner state ripples outward, like invisible waves others can feel? The hidden lake also reminds you of your own inner life, the place you retreat to when you close your eyes at night, when the noise of the day fades. How often do you allow yourself to linger there, just breathing in the quiet, without rushing back into thought? Tonight, you are at that lake, even without traveling anywhere. Zen masters might ask, is the lake still because the wind stops, or because you finally see beyond the ripples? And if your mind is like water, are you the one making the waves, or the one quietly watching them? As you sit by this imagined lake with Yeshit Sogyal, the world grows hushed. The stars shimmer above, their light mirrored in the water's surface. Each breath you take is like a stone dropping softly into the depths, ripples spreading, then dissolving into stillness. You do not need to reach for peace. It is already here, waiting in the quiet mirror of your heart. The still lake fades from view, and now you see Yeshit Sogyal walking a rough and winding path through mountain passes. The wind grows stronger here, cold against her cheeks, yet her steps never falter. Life had never promised her ease. Even as a young woman, she endured hardships that could have broken her spirit. Abduction, mistreatment, endless trials. And yet, Instead of closing down, she allowed each hardship to become a lesson in resilience. The Buddha taught the noble truth of suffering not as something to despair over, but as a doorway to wisdom. Every being faces difficulty, but it is how we carry it that shapes the heart. You think of your own struggles, the days when the weight of things felt unfair, when pain seemed meaningless. But if Yeshe Tsogyal could transform pain into compassion, could you too begin to see your burdens as teachers? Imagine the gentleness that might grow if you treated each wound as an opening rather than a scar. There is a story of her being left alone in the freezing wilderness with almost nothing to survive. Instead of collapsing in fear, she focused on her breath, repeating simple mantras that warmed her from the inside. Later, she taught others that the mind itself can create warmth, that calm attention to breath and mantra can soften even physical pain. Tibetan yogis still practice this today, sitting on snowy peaks, generating inner heat through meditation. You might not be wrapped in snow, but have not you noticed how even a single mindful breath can melt the chill of anxiety? As she walked, she encountered wild animals. One tale tells of a tiger who came close, its eyes glinting in the moonlight. She bowed to it, whispering a prayer. The tiger lowered its head and disappeared back into the trees. Rather than fight fear with fear, she met it with respect. What would happen if you met your own inner tigers, those racing thoughts, those restless worries, not with resistance, but with a gentle bow? Would they, too, lose their grip and fade back into silence? The trials of Yeshe Tsogyal remind you that resilience is not hardness. It is softness that does not break, like grass that bends under the wind but rises again, like water that flows around rocks. Finding a way forward, you, too, have that same softness within, the ability to meet difficulty without closing your heart. Zen masters might ask, if the path is full of stones, is it the stones that wound you, or the way you step upon them? Could it be that every obstacle is also part of the journey's teaching? As you imagine her walking through the cold passes, you notice her face calm, her breath steady. She does not resist the wind. She walks with it. And as you rest here tonight, you too can let the winds of your own life pass through you. Without pushing them away, feel your shoulders ease, your chest soften, as you realize every hardship is polishing your gentle heart. The wind eases, and in its place comes a hush as Yeshe Tsogyal enters a hidden cave. The air is cool, faintly scented with earth and stone, and a small butter lamp flickers at the entrance. She bows deeply, for here she will receive the teachings of Padmasambhava, the great master who brought Vajrayana Buddhism into Tibet. He does not hand her wisdom like coins placed in a palm. He invites her to drink it slowly, like water from a deep spring. The Buddha taught that the Dharma is not something external to be collected. It is the unfolding of what already lies within. For Yeshe Tsogyal, meeting Padmasambhava was not about learning something foreign, it was about remembering what her heart already carried. You may notice this, too, when a piece of wisdom resonates. It often feels like remembering rather than discovering. Isn't that a curious sign that the mirror of truth has always been in you? There is a story told of Padmasambhava asking her to write down secret instructions, then burying them in the earth and water as hidden treasures, termas, to be found by future generations when the time was right. She became a guardian of these teachings, not by locking them away, but by planting them like seeds for the future. Imagine holding knowledge so precious you did not flaunt it, but hid it tenderly, trusting time to reveal it. Isn't there something similar in your own life, truths you carry quietly, waiting for the right moment to bloom? Among the practices she learned were visualizations of deities, bright, radiant forms meant not to be worshipped from afar, but recognized as reflections of one's own mind. Some practitioners sat in the dark until visions rose naturally, like sparks from a fire. Could it be that the images we carry inside dreams, symbols, even the faces of those we love are all reminders of the hidden treasures within? A lesser-known practice she mastered involved chanting not for herself but for unseen beings, spirits of land, water, and air. She would whisper mantras into the wind so that even those without form could hear. You might smile at the thought. Even the breeze outside your window tonight could be carrying whispers of kindness. What would happen if every exhale you released carried a blessing for someone unseen? As you breathe now, imagine receiving your own teaching not as words from a teacher, but as a warmth that rises in your chest. The wisdom you seek is not distant. It is already alive in your breath, your body, your awareness. Zen masters might ask, when you receive teachings, do you store them like possessions, or do you live them like air you breathe? In the cave's soft glow, Yeshit Sogyal listens with her whole being. No rush, no impatience, just the open heart of someone who knows that true treasure is timeless. And as you rest, you too can listen inwardly, sensing that same gentle wisdom already waiting in the quiet of your soul. The cave recedes into memory, and you now see Yeshit Sogyal stepping out into the open world again. Her arms are empty, yet her heart overflows. The teachings she carries are not meant to be kept hidden in silence, they must be lived through generosity. Through the practice of offering, she walks toward a village where smoke rises gently from hearths, and the air smells faintly of barley and butter tea. Children gather curiously, and elders watch from doorways. She bows to them, her presence as humble as a servant, though she is already regarded as a great yajini. The Buddha taught that generosity is the first perfection, the root of all other virtues. To give is to free yourself from clinging. Yeshit Sogyal understood this deeply. She offered food when she had little, care when she herself was weary, and, most importantly, compassion when others gave her cruelty. Each act of giving polished her heart until it shone like a mirror. Doesn't it feel light when you think of times you have given freely, without expectation? That lightness is the taste of liberation. There is a story that when she traveled through harsh landscapes, she would stop to offer bowls of water to the spirits of the land, simple gifts poured on the earth, accompanied by gentle prayers. Villagers who saw her were puzzled. Why waste precious water? But to her, every drop given was multiplied by the spaciousness it created inside. Could you imagine offering something simple today, not for recognition, but to widen your own heart? A quirky practice still found in Tibetan villages is the offering of butter lamps at night. Families place them in shrines, not only for the Buddhas but for all beings wandering in darkness. Each flame flickers like a tiny sun, saying, "May you find your way?" Even if you do not have a lamp, is not it comforting to think that every small kindness you make a smile? A word of patience is its own lamp in the dark. As you breathe in, feel the warmth of receiving. As you breathe out, imagine offering that warmth to the world, like pouring water back into a stream. The rhythm of breath itself is giving and receiving, constant generosity at the most basic level. What would happen if you saw every breath as an offering, every exhale polishing the heart of the world? Zen masters might ask, when you give, do you still imagine a giver and a receiver? Or could generosity be so complete that it erases separation, leaving only the flow of kindness? You notice Yeshit Sogyal sitting with villagers now, sharing her food with children, listening to their laughter. Nothing grand, nothing spectacular, yet her gentle heart glows brighter with each act. And as you rest here tonight, you, too, can feel that glow within, the soft joy of giving, even if all you offer is your attention, your presence, your breath. The smoke of village fires drifts away, and now you find yourself with Yeshit Sogyal on a high plateau, the sky stretching endlessly above. She sits cross-legged, her gaze lifted not to the ground but to the open expanse above her head. The vastness of the sky becomes her teacher, limitless, ungraspable, always present. The Buddha compared the mind to space, boundless, without edges. untouched by passing clouds. Thoughts, emotions, and sensations drift like shifting weather, but the sky itself remains clear. As you sit here with her, you notice the truth of this in yourself. Your mind, too, is wide like the sky. Every worry, every flicker of memory just passing clouds. Isn't it a relief to realize the storm cannot stain the sky? Yeshe Tsogyal practice sky gazing meditation, a uniquely Tibetan practice where one rests with open eyes, gazing into the blue until the distinction between inner and outer dissolves. At first, the mind races, trying to grasp, but eventually, thoughts scatter like birds startled into flight, leaving only spaciousness. Could you imagine trying this yourself, lying on the grass, looking into the sky until even the idea of you drifts away? There is a story told of her retreat in a remote valley, where she sat for days under an endless vault of sky. At times, she laughed out loud, not at any joke but at the sheer vastness that held her. The villagers who passed thought she had lost her senses. But she would tell them gently, "When you laugh into the sky laughs back." Isn't that a playful reminder that the vastness is not empty, it is alive with presence? A quirky practice some hermits use is to shout their mantras into wide valleys, letting their voices echo, not to be heard by others, but to let the sound dissolve into immensity. The echo is not separated, is the voice returning. Try imagining this. If you whispered a word of kindness now, could the silence itself whisper it back to you? As you breathe in, feel the openness expanding inside your chest. As you exhale, let your breath dissolve outward, blending with the room, with the night, with the wide sky itself. For a moment, there is no inside or outside, only openness. Zen masters might ask, if the sky has no boundary, where do you end and the world begin? You glance at Yeshe Tsogyal, her eyes soft, her smile quiet, her body light as if she were half made of sky. And you sense the teaching in your own heart that peace comes not from controlling every cloud of thought, but from remembering the boundless space that holds them. Tonight, as you rest, you too are held by that sky, endless and unbroken. The sky begins to soften into twilight, and you see Yeshe Tsogyal rising from her meditation, her face serene yet alive with warmth. She walks among people again, pilgrims, wanderers, villagers, and her presence is not lofty or distant. She carries her sky-like calm into every meeting, seeing each person not as stranger or obstacle, but as reflection. Her compassion flows naturally, as though every being she meets is another mirror of her own heart. The Buddha taught that all beings want the same thing, to be free from suffering and to find happiness. When you recognize this, compassion arises effortlessly, like water flowing downhill. Yeshe Tsogyal embodied this truth. Even those who hurt her, she treated with understanding, not because she excused cruelty, but because she saw the pain behind it. Could you imagine looking at someone difficult in your own life and asking, what suffering might they be carrying? Would that shift how you felt toward them? There is a story told of her being insulted by a jealous noblewoman. Instead of replying with anger, Yeshe Tsogyal bowed and offered kind words. Later, the woman confessed that her harshness came from deep loneliness. Compassion turned enmity into trust. Isn't it remarkable how a gentle heart can transform even hostility into connection? Some Tibetan practitioners perform a practice called Tonglen breathing in the suffering of others and breathing out relief. At first, it seems strange. Why would anyone breathe in pain? But the practice reveals that when you open to others' struggles, your heart does not shrink, it expands. Imagine trying it now. Breathe in gently, picturing the weariness of someone you know. Breathe out softly, sending them peace. Doesn't it feel as though your chest widens, as though your heart can hold more than you realized? Quirky traditions remind practitioners that compassion is not always solemn. In some villages, monks dressed as clowns during festivals, making people laugh so their hearts could open more easily. Yeshit Tsogyal, 2, was known to laugh often, to soften the heaviness of those around her. Isn't it true that sometimes the kindest thing you can offer is a smile? As you lie here, think of the people who passed through your day, friends, strangers, perhaps even those who tested your patience. Each of them appeared in your mirror, each a reflection of the same wish for peace. Zen masters might ask, if every person is another reflection, how can you be apart from them? Could it be that compassion is simply recognizing yourself in another's eyes? Yeshit Tsogyal's gentle heart shone brightest not in retreat, but in the world through each word, each act of kindness, each moment of listening. And as you rest now, you too can let your breath become compassion, your silence become kindness, your very presence a lamp for others. The twilight deepens, and you see Yeshit Tsogyal kneeling by a stream. She cups the water in her hands, watching the ripples dance in the fading light. To anyone else, this might seem like an ordinary moment, just water slipping through fingers. But to her, it is treasure, for she knows that wisdom is not always found in grand revelations. It often hides quietly in the folds of daily life, waiting to be uncovered like a buried jewel. The Buddha often reminded his followers that mindfulness is the key to discovery. To walk, to eat, to breathe with awareness, these are the doors to hidden treasures. When you remember to be present, the ordinary becomes luminous. Isn't it true that when you slow down, even a sip of tea tastes richer? Even a breeze feels like a blessing. Yeshit Tsogyal was entrusted with preserving sacred teachings, hiding scrolls and relics in caves, lakes, and rocks. These termed hidden treasures were meant to be revealed centuries later, when people most needed them. But she also spoke of another kind of treasure, the ones hidden in your own heart. A kind word held back until the right moment. A lesson life taught you quietly, stored away until it ripens. What hidden treasure do you carry within, waiting for the right time to be revealed? A lesser-known Tibetan practice is treasure finding, where practitioners are guided by dreams or visions to uncover these secret teachings. Sometimes the treasure is not an object at all but an insight, a sudden clarity that arrives like a gift. You may smile at the thought. Perhaps tonight, as you drift into sleep, your dreams may whisper a small treasure into your heart. There is a story told of Yeshit Tsogyal wandering into a forest after a storm. She noticed the way broken branches revealed bright new shoots beneath. This, she said, is a treasure hidden in loss. How often have you found that after something difficult, a small gift emerges, a deeper patience, a softer heart, a clarity you did not have before? Zen masters might ask, is the treasure in the object you uncover, or in the awareness that allows you to recognize its value? Could it be that the greatest treasures are not buried in mountains, but in each breath, each moment of presence? Right now, as you breathe, you can treat the air itself as a hidden jewel, silent, invisible, yet sustaining you completely. Each inhale is a gift, each exhale a quiet offering. The hidden treasure is not far away. It is here, sparkling in the ordinary rhythm of life. You watch Yeshit Tsogyal smile as she lets the water fall from her hands back into the stream. Nothing is lost. Everything returns, and you feel the same gentle truth settle into your chest. The treasures you uncover are not meant to be hoarded, but shared, flowing back into the world like water returning to the river. The night grows deeper, and you see Yeshit Tsogyal seated by the glow of a butter lamp. The flame flickers softly, painting her face in warm gold. She holds no scriptures now, no hidden treasures, no teachings to deliver. She simply rests in the gentle rhythm of her own heart. Her wisdom shines not as thunder or lightning, but as the steady warmth of kindness. The Buddha taught that love and compassion are not separate from enlightenment, they are its very essence. Without kindness, wisdom can become cold, but when wisdom is joined with gentleness, It becomes a light that comforts others as much as it guides. Isn't it true that when someone treats you with warmth, the memory lingers far longer than clever words? There is a story of Yeshitsagil healing a wounded bird. She held it carefully in her robes, whispering prayers until it regained strength. Villagers mocked her, why waste time on a small creature? But she only smiled. A gentle heart makes no distinction. In that moment, her compassion was a teaching more powerful than any scripture. What would it mean if you, too, treated every being, large or small, as equally worthy of care? Some Tibetan practitioners engage in a quirky, lesser-known exercise of feeding wild animals during retreat, not out of duty but as practice in seeing all life as family. Even wolves and crows, feared by many, were offered food. In time, the animals lost their fear and came closer. The lesson: when your heart softens, the world softens too. Could you imagine what would happen if, tomorrow, you met every being you saw, even strangers, with just a little more gentleness? As you rest here, think of your own gentle moments. Times you chose patience over irritation, kindness over indifference. Didn't those choices leave you lighter? The gentle heart does not weaken you, it makes you stronger, like water carving valleys with persistence, not force. Zen masters might ask, is gentleness something you must create, or is it already your true nature? Reveal only when you stop resisting. If you stopped armoring yourself for just a moment, would you discover that kindness was already flowing through you? The butter lamp beside Yeshitsagil flickers lower, but the glow does not fade. It lingers in the air, in her eyes, in your chest. Tonight, your own heart can be that lamp, quiet, steady, shining warmth without demand. And as you breathe slowly, you notice that the world itself seems softer, as though the gentle heart within you is being mirrored everywhere. The butter lamp finally goes out, yet the darkness is not heavy. It is soft, almost luminous, as though the light has not vanished but spread quietly into every corner. Yeshitsagil sits in that stillness, her posture relaxed, her presence vast, like a bird unfolding its wings before flight. She is no longer bound by the cave, the mountain, or even the body. She rests in freedom, her gentle heart merged with the spaciousness of awakened peace. The Buddha taught that liberation is not a far-off realm, it is the release of clinging. The simple letting go. When you stop holding on to what is fleeting, your hands are free to open. Imagine your own life. How often do you clutch tightly at thoughts, fears, or hopes? And what would happen if, even for a breath, you loosened that grip? Would the weight lift immediately? A story is told of Yeshitsagil gazing into the sky at the end of a long retreat. Her companions saw her body sitting there, but she seemed to dissolve into the vastness, as if she had become the sky itself. They whispered that she had attained the rainbow body, leaving behind only light. Whether or not the story is literal, the teaching is clear. True freedom is becoming so open that nothing can bind you. Could you imagine yourself as wide as the sky, worries dissolving like morning mist? Tibetan yogis sometimes practiced lying flat on the ground, arms spread wide, whispering the mantra for liberation. They called it the practice of wings, symbolizing flight beyond all boundaries. Try picturing this yourself now, your body resting like a bird on the earth, your breath lifting you gently, your spirit spreading into the space around you. Doesn't it feel freeing, even without moving? As you lie here, your own breath is the wing beat. Each inhale expands, each exhale releases. You are not trapped in today's troubles. You are moving beyond them, into a space where nothing can confine you. Zen masters might ask, if freedom has no shape, no edge, no owner, then who is it that becomes free? Perhaps the answer is not you or me, but freedom itself, unfolding through awareness. The mountains fade, the caves grow silent, the stories drift like leaves on a stream, yet the gentle heart remains. It beats softly in you, in me, in every being that longs for peace. Yeshit Sagyol's journey whispers across centuries that liberation is not fierce conquest but tender release. And so, as your breath slows, feel every worry slip away, like feathers carried by the wind. The night holds you, vast and kind. Peace is here, always has been. Story 3. The Path to Inner Peace. Mindful Eating with the Buddhist Bowl. Hey guys. Tonight we are going to explore some timeless Zen stories that have helped people find peace and relaxation for centuries. If your mind's been racing all day, these tales might gently pull you back to the stillness waiting within. In our busy lives, it is easy to forget that calm is not out there, it is already yours to uncover. So, before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. And I would love to know where you are listening from. Drop your location and your local time in the comments. Now, dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let us ease into tonight's journey together. You sit quietly, and in your hands you imagine a bowl, not an ornate vessel of silver or gold, but a simple, rounded bowl, smooth from years of use. It is the Buddhist bowl, the alms bowl that monks and nuns carried with them, relying on the kindness of strangers to fill it each day. At first glance, it seems ordinary, yet in its simplicity lies a teaching deeper than words. The Buddha once said that the bowl is not just for holding food, but for holding awareness. Each time it is lifted, one remembers the interdependence of all things: the farmer who grew the grain, the cook who prepared the meal, the rain and the soil that nourished it. Isn't it humbling to realize how many unseen hands have touched even a single bite of food before it reaches you? A quirky practice from Zen monasteries in Japan shows just how sacred this bowl can be. Monks eat with 3 bowls, carefully laid out, each movement precise, almost like a dance. They wash the last grains of rice with tea, drinking it so that not a morsel is wasted. Silence fills the room, yet the sound of chopsticks, the faint clink of bowls, and the steam rising from the food create their own music. Imagine being there. How calming would it feel to share a meal where every gesture is a meditation? You notice how your own meals are often hurried, scrolling through your phone, checking the time, barely tasting what you eat. What would happen if you slowed down and treated your plate like the Buddhist bowl, lifting it with both hands, pausing in gratitude before the first bite? Could your meal become not just nourishment, but prayer? There is an old Zen saying, when eating, just eat. It sounds simple, but think about it. How rarely do you give yourself fully to the act of eating? Your mind races ahead to the next task, or drifts back to the last conversation. The Buddhist bowl invites you to come back to now, to notice the warmth of the food, the aroma rising, the colors before you. Even a small piece of bread can become a doorway to presence. You may recall the story of the monk who faced a tiger in the forest. He found wild strawberries growing by the path, and even with danger before him, he paused to taste one. How sweet, he said. The tiger may have been near, but for that moment, his whole being was devoted to the taste. Isn't there a lesson there, that even with life's worries pressing close, you can still find sweetness if you truly taste what is in front of you? The Buddhist bowl teaches humility too. Monastics never chose their meals. They accepted whatever was placed in their bowl, sweet or bitter, plentiful or scarce. It was all received with gratitude. How different would your own heart feel if you treated each moment the same way, accepting it, tasting it fully, without demanding it be different? Tonight, as you breathe softly, imagine holding that simple bowl in your hands. It is not empty, it is full of teachings, gratitude, awareness, humility, presence, all waiting for you, here now. The bowl rests lightly in your hands, and now you notice how it is filled not by your own effort, but by the kindness of others. This is the practice of alms, where monks and nuns walk silently with bowls at dawn, receiving whatever is given. Each grain of rice, each piece of fruit, is an offering. To live this way is to remember that nourishment is never separate from gratitude. The Buddha taught that everything we receive is supported by countless conditions. A single meal is the work of the sun, the rain, the earth, the farmer, the cook, and the giver. When you eat, you are eating not just food but the whole universe woven together. Doesn't it make you pause to think how many lives have touched even your simplest breakfast? There is a Zen story of a monk who walked barefoot through villages, bowl in hand. One morning he received nothing, hungry but calm. He sat under a tree, holding the empty bowl in silence. Villagers passed, curious at his stillness, until one woman dropped in a small piece of bread. He bowed so deeply it startled her. "Why bow so low for so little?" she asked. He smiled. "Because I am bowing to the whole world inside this bread." What would it be like if you, too, treated even the smallest gift as precious? In some monasteries, there is a quirky custom. Monks rotate their seating each meal so no one knows where they will sit. The food served varies from place to place, so each meal is different. It is a practice in acceptance, learning to let go of preference. Imagine how freeing it would be if you approached each bite not with judgment, but with curiosity. Could you see even plain rice as worthy of wonder? Right now, think about your own meals. Maybe you chose what to eat today. Maybe you did not. But underneath choice is the same truth. Every bite depends on others. How would your heart soften if, before eating, you whispered a simple thank you not just to the cook, but to the soil, the rain, the people you may never meet who made this food possible? Zen masters might ask, when you lift your food, do you see only a meal? Or do you see the countless lives within it? And if everything you consume is given by others, can you ever truly eat alone? You watch the Buddhist bowl being filled by unseen hands, rice from one family, vegetables from another, water from the stream. Each offering is small, but together they are enough. And you realize your own life is just like that, built on countless offerings. Some you notice, many you do not. As you breathe softly now, imagine your bowl being filled, not just with food, but with love, care, and connection. Every inhale is a gift received. Every exhale a gift returned. Gratitude flows in both directions. Just as the Buddhist bowl is both given to and giving back, the bowl in your hands feels a little heavier now, filled with rice, vegetables, perhaps a piece of fruit. You lift it carefully, the way monks and nuns have done for centuries. And in that motion you sense the beginning of a ritual, the first bite. It is not taken quickly, not swallowed without thought. Instead, it is received with reverence. Like a blessing, the Buddha taught that awareness can be found in the simplest acts. Walking, breathing, even chewing. Eating is not just about feeding the body, it is about waking the mind. When you pause before the first bite, you give yourself a chance to arrive fully, to let gratitude catch up to your hunger. Isn't it true that so much of life rushes past simply because you did not pause to notice? There is a story of a Zen monk who refused to begin his meal until he had smiled at his food. He said, "If the food does not see my joy, how can it nourish me?" His fellow monks laughed, but in time they found themselves smiling, too, before lifting their bowls. A small, quirky practice, but one that turned eating into celebration. What would it feel like if, tomorrow, you smiled at your plate before taking a bite? Could even that small pause transform the meal into something sacred? The first bite is like the opening note of a song. It sets the tone for everything that follows. If you eat in haste, the whole meal becomes hurried. But if you take that first mouthful with calm, the rest unfolds in peace. You can test this yourself. Think of the last time you ate quickly. Did you even remember the taste? Now imagine lifting the spoon slowly, noticing the texture, the aroma, the warmth, then letting the first bite rest on your tongue. Isn't it remarkable how the same food feels different when you give it your full attention? In Tibetan monasteries, a lesser-known practice is reciting a short verse before eating. This food is medicine. I take it to sustain this body. The verse is not about indulgence or denial. It is a reminder that food is not entertainment, but nourishment. Could you imagine eating with that thought in mind? Seeing each bite as medicine for your well-being? As you breathe gently now, picture yourself with the Buddhist bowl lifted close, pausing just before the first taste. Your stomach might feel anticipation. Your mind might whisper distraction, but you hold the pause. In that moment, you are no longer hungry or full. You are simply present. Zen masters might ask, is the first bite the taste of food, or the taste of awareness itself? When you finally place the food on your tongue, the flavors unfold more vividly than you expect. Sweetness, bitterness, warmth, texture. Each note is alive. You chew slowly, and the world quiets. No rushing, no planning, only tasting. The Buddhist bowl has given you not just food, but presence. And as you rest in that awareness tonight, you realize that life itself is made of first bites. Each moment is new, each breath a beginning. If only you pause to taste it fully. The first bite has already awakened your senses, and now you feel yourself slowing even further. Each grain of rice, each piece of vegetable, reveals its taste more clearly when you linger with it. You realize that chewing slowly is not just about digestion. It is about entering into stillness, step by step, bite by bite. The Buddha taught that mindfulness is to be fully present with whatever you are doing, walking, sitting, or eating. When you chew quickly, your mind races ahead, already chasing the next mouthful or the next thought. But when you chew slowly, time stretches open. You are no longer rushing toward the end of the meal. You are resting in the moment of eating itself. Doesn't it feel different when you allow yourself to taste instead of devour? There is a Zen story of a teacher who told his students, chew each mouthful 30 times. They groaned at the thought, so tedious. But after a week of practice, the students noticed something surprising. Not only did they taste flavors more deeply, they also felt calmer, lighter, more grounded. What would happen if you, too, slowed down, even just for one meal, chewing as though each bite were the only one? In some monasteries, there is a quirky little practice. Monks place their chopsticks down between bites, folding their hands in their laps before lifting them again. The rhythm is deliberate, like a silent chant, reminding them that eating is not a race. Could you imagine yourself doing the same, putting down your fork, pausing, breathing, then lifting it again with fresh attention? Right now, imagine a simple mouthful in your own bowl. As you chew slowly, you notice the sound inside your head, the way the flavors shift from sharp to mellow, the way the body begins to relax with each swallow. It is almost as though eating becomes a form of meditation, a gentle bell ringing inside your body. And as you chew slowly, something else happens. You begin to notice your fullness sooner. The Buddha once advised his monks to eat only until they were satisfied, not stuffed, stopping before the body grew heavy. Isn't it curious how slowing down allows you to listen to your body more clearly? To know the difference between hunger and habit? Zen masters might ask, what are you really chewing, just food? Or also your thoughts? Your worries? your restlessness. Could it be that by chewing slowly, you digest not only your meal but your day? The Buddhist bowl rests on the mat before you, but you are in no hurry to finish. Each bite is enough, each chew a moment of peace. And as you sit here, you realize that you have begun to mirror the calm of the monks who eat in silence. Tasting life as it comes, your breath slows with the rhythm of your chewing, the room around you grows quiet, and for a moment, there is nothing but presence, the taste of stillness, alive in each bite. The slow chewing has softened the edges of hunger, and now the meal begins to reveal something deeper, a taste of simplicity itself. The food in your bowl is plain, perhaps just rice, vegetables, maybe a few herbs, no heavy sauces, no elaborate spices. And yet, in this plainness, you find a quiet joy. Each flavor stands on its own, gentle but clear, asking nothing more than your attention. The Buddha taught the middle way, not indulgence, not deprivation, but balance. Food in the Buddhist bowl was never meant to be extravagant. It was nourishment, pure and simple. When you live this way, even ordinary flavors shine. Isn't it curious that sometimes the simplest meals linger longest in your memory, not because of richness, but because of the presence you gave them? There is a story of a Zen monk who lived for years on little more than rice and greens. When asked if he grew bored, he laughed. "How could I be bored? Each bowl tastes new if I taste it freshly." This was his quirky practice, never assuming he already knew the taste, but approaching every bite as though for the first time. Could you imagine bringing that kind of wonder to even the most familiar foods? In Japanese Zen monasteries, meals are called oryoki, which means just enough. Monks do not pile their bowls high. Instead, they take only what they need, and they savor it. The practice is not about denial, it is about freedom from excess. Imagine what it would feel like if, instead of craving more, you found joy in just enough. Wouldn't your heart feel lighter, your gratitude deeper? Tonight, picture yourself holding a plain bowl of rice. No luxury, no extravagance, and yet, as you lift it, you feel the warmth rising, the aroma drifting upward. Your body softens as you realize this is enough, more than enough. In this moment, you are cared for, sustained, alive. Zen masters might ask, when you eat, are you tasting the food, or your ideas about the food? If you stripped away the stories of delicious or boring, what would the taste itself reveal? The Buddhist bowl rests in your hands, plain but precious. The food within it is not dazzling, but it is real, grounding, and quietly beautiful. As you chew, you taste the simplicity of the earth, the effort of farmers, the patience of time. You do not need anything more. And in this simplicity, you discover joy, not the excitement of indulgence, but the calm sweetness of enough. Each bite is like a bell, ringing softly in your heart, reminding you that peace often hides in the plainest moments. The simple flavors linger on your tongue, and now you notice the quiet that surrounds you. No chatter, no clinking of plates beyond your own bowl, just the hush of the room, the rhythm of your breath, and the steady act of eating. This is the practice of silence at the meal, a tradition that turns food into meditation. The Buddha often reminded his followers that noble silence allows wisdom to bloom. When words fall away, awareness sharpens. You hear the faintest sounds, the steam rising from your food, the gentle click of chopsticks against the bowl, the swallow of your own throat. Each sound becomes part of a soft orchestra of stillness. Isn't it true that when you quiet yourself, the smallest details shine more vividly? There is a story from a Zen monastery where newcomers struggled with the silence of meals. One monk whispered jokes, another sighed loudly. The teacher simply rang a bell, and the hall returned to stillness. After many days, The monks began to notice something remarkable. The silence no longer felt empty. It felt alive, full of presence. Could it be that silence is not the absence of connection, but a deeper form of listening? In some monasteries, there is a quirky custom of using signals instead of words, raising a hand for more rice, bowing slightly to pass a dish. Meals unfold like a silent dance, each person attuned to the others. No voice is needed, yet harmony arises. Imagine sharing a meal like that. How much calmer would it feel to eat without the constant noise of conversation? You might think of your own meals. How often they are filled with distractions, TV humming in the background, notifications lighting up your phone, chatter swirling around. What would happen if you tried a silent meal? Even once. No screens, no words, only the act of eating in peace. Would the food itself taste more alive? As you breathe now, you can feel the quiet gathering around you like a blanket. The taste of each bite deepens. The texture sharpens. The warmth settles more fully into your body. Zen masters might ask, is silence something you create by removing noise? Or is it always here, waiting beneath the sounds? The Buddhist bowl rests before you, and the silence around it is not heavy but tender. Each bite becomes a wordless prayer, each swallow a verse in the poetry of stillness. You realize you are not eating alone, you are eating with silence itself as your companion. And in this quiet, your mind softens, your heart opens. You discover that silence, when shared with food, is not emptiness but nourishment, feeding body and spirit together. The silence deepens, and you notice the food in your bowl growing less with each bite. What remains, though, is not discarded. It becomes part of another practice, offering the leftovers. In the Buddhist tradition, nothing is wasted. What is not eaten is given back to birds, to animals, to the earth. Even scraps carry life, and so they are shared. The Buddha taught that generosity extends beyond grand gestures. To give even the smallest portion with an open heart is to honor the web of life. Isn't it humbling to think that what you cannot use may be nourishment for another being? A crust of bread, a sip of water, these, too, can be gifts. There is a story of a monk who, after every meal, placed a few grains of rice on the ground outside his hut. His students once asked, "Why so little?" He replied, "Because even ants know hunger, and a grain is enough for them." A small, quirky practice, but one that reminds us of how easily compassion can flow. What would it feel like if you, too, gave away even a fragment of what you did not need? In Tibetan monasteries, it is common for monks to leave offerings of tea or tsampa, roasted barley flour, on stones or in streams, whispering prayers as they do. These gifts are not wasted, they are shared with the unseen beings. The land itself, the spirits of air and water. Imagine bowing your head as you pour out even a few drops of tea, saying silently, "May all beings be nourished." Wouldn't your own heart feel nourished, too? As you look down into your Buddhist bowl, you see the last grains of food, perhaps a small piece of vegetable. Resting quietly, you take them slowly, mindfully, until only a few traces remain. Then you imagine offering what is left not as garbage, but as gratitude. The cycle of giving and receiving completes itself. Zen masters might ask, when you hold food, do you see it as yours, or as a momentary gift passing through your hands? And if you offered even a little back to the world, would you lose anything, or would you gain a gentler heart? Your breath steadies now, as though it, too, is part of this offering. Inhale, receiving life. Exhale, giving life back. The rhythm continues endlessly, a reminder that you are always both giver and receiver. As you rest tonight, you carry this image, the Buddhist bowl held gently in your palms, the last grains lifted and released, a small act of generosity rippling outward. And with it comes a simple truth: nothing is wasted when the heart remembers to give. The bowl in your hands is almost empty now, and you can see the smooth curve of its bottom, glistening faintly from the last traces of food. This emptiness is not a loss, it is a teaching in itself. The empty bowl carries a quiet message. Nothing lasts. And that is its beauty. The Buddha often spoke of impermanence. Every meal ends, every taste fades, every body changes. When you see this clearly, you stop clinging, and peace arises. Isn't it true that the moments you savor most are the ones you knew could not last? Sunset colors, a child's laughter, the last bite of something delicious. The empty bowl reminds you that all things are like that, fleeting, precious because they pass. There is a story of a Zen monk who would turn his bowl upside down after eating, placing it carefully on the mat. "This," he said, "is my teacher of letting go." He explained that by bowing to the empty bowl, he remembered that satisfaction does not come from fullness, but from the freedom to release. Could you imagine bowing inwardly each time you finish something in your day, a task, a meal, even a conversation, saying, "It is enough, I let it go"? In some monasteries, there is a quirky custom after meals. Monks rinse their bowls with hot water or tea, then drink the rinse so not even a drop is wasted. The bowl is left spotless, ready for the next meal, a symbol of impermanence and renewal. Imagine how calming it would feel if you approached your own endings this way: clean, complete, leaving no trace of regret. As you look at the empty bowl in your lap, you notice that it still holds something: silence, gratitude, awareness. It may no longer carry food, but it carries presence. Zen masters might ask, is the bowl truly empty? Or is it full of everything you cannot see? You take a slow breath, feeling the rise and fall of your chest. With each inhale, you remember fullness. With each exhale, you accept emptiness. Both are part of the same rhythm, and in this rhythm, you find peace. The Buddhist bowl, empty now, rests lightly in your hands. It does not cling to what is past, nor does it crave what is to come. It simply is open, ready, waiting for whatever life offers next. As you rest tonight, let your own heart be like that bowl, open, unburdened, free. The bowl lies empty in your lap. Yet as you gaze at it, you realize food was never the only nourishment it carried. The meal fed your body? Yes. But what about your mind? Your heart? Your spirit? The Buddha often reminded his followers that we live on more than bread and rice. We are nourished by our thoughts, our words, our relationships, our awareness. What you take in through your senses shapes you as surely as what you eat. Consider this: when you spend the day filling yourself with anxious news, restless scrolling, or harsh words, do not you feel heavy inside, no matter what you have eaten? And when you pause to breathe, hear birdsong, or share a kind word, does not your whole being feel lighter? Nourishment is not just calories, it is everything you allow into the bowl of your life. There is a Zen story of a master who refused a meal one evening. His students were puzzled. "Master, are not you hungry?" He replied, Today I feasted on the silence of the forest, and on the laughter of children in the village." A quirky response, but it carried a deep truth. The spirit needs feeding as much as the body. What would happen if you began to notice what your heart is hungry for? Not just your stomach. In some Tibetan hermitages, practitioners chant verses before sleep, offering thanks for both material food and spiritual food. The Dharma teachings, the kindness of others, the very breath that sustained them. They called this the second meal. Could you imagine ending your day this way, whispering gratitude not just for dinner, but for the moments that fed your soul? As you breathe now, Think of what you have received today beyond food, perhaps a gentle word, a smile, a moment of quiet, even the comfort of rest as you listen here. Let those become your nourishment. Filling you from within, Zen masters might ask, if your body needs 3 meals a day, how often do you feed your spirit? Could it be that true hunger is not only of the belly, but of the heart longing for peace? The Buddhist bowl in your hands is a reminder that nourishment is everywhere within the grains of rice, within silence, within kindness, within breath. Each moment can be food for awakening, if only you taste it fully as you rest tonight. Feel yourself being fed not only by what you have eaten, but by the peace of stillness, the warmth of presence, the gentle glow of awareness. Your whole being is nourished, complete. The bowl rests in your lap, empty yet luminous, and you realize the entire meal has been more than food, it has been a meditation. A journey, each stage receiving, tasting, chewing slowly, offering, letting go has carried you deeper into presence. What remains now is not hunger or fullness, but a quiet contentment, like the soft glow after sunset. The Buddha often spoke of contentment as the greatest wealth. To be satisfied with what you have, with what is here, is to be richer than any king. You do not need more flavors, more possessions, or more moments. You need only to rest in the gentle feast already within you. Isn't it true that the sweetest peace arrives not when you grasp for more, but when you whisper, "This is enough"? There is a story of a Zen monk who, after finishing his simple meal, would place his empty bowl on the windowsill and sit gazing at the moon. "Now I eat the light," he said with a smile. To him, every moment was nourishment, every breath an inner feast. Could you imagine treating your life this way, seeing each sight, each sound, each breath as something feeding your soul? Some monasteries keep a quirky tradition at the end of meals. Monks chant softly, not to the food but to their own awareness, thanking the practice itself. The bowl is empty, but the heart is full. They sing. Perhaps you could try your own quiet chant tonight, maybe not with words, but with a slow breath, an exhale that says thank you without sound. As you sit here, feel the fullness that comes not from food but from presence. The air around you nourishes your lungs, the stillness nourishes your mind, the awareness shining through each moment nourishes your heart. Zen masters might ask, is this inner feast something you must seek, or has it been here all along, waiting for you to notice? The Buddha's bowl has led you here not as an object, but as a mirror, showing you that peace is woven into every act, every bite, every breath. You do not need to carry the bowl to a monastery. You carry it in your awareness, always. And now, as your breath slows, feel every worry slip away, like leaves floating down a quiet stream. The body softens, the mind rests, the heart glows gently. The inner feast is complete. Peace is here, always has been. Story 4. Buddhist teachings for relaxation. The Gandhara sculptors. Art is silent meditation. Hey guys. Tonight we are going to explore some timeless Zen stories that have helped people find peace and relaxation for centuries. If your mind's been racing all day, these tales might gently pull you back to the stillness waiting within. In our busy lives, it is easy to forget that calm is not out there, it is already yours to uncover. So, before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. And I would love to know where you are listening from. Drop your location and your local time in the comments. Now, dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let us ease into tonight's journey together. You sit quietly, as if in an ancient workshop, the air filled with the faint smell of dust and stone. In the distance, You hear the soft, steady tap of chisel against rock, rhythmic, unhurried, almost like a heartbeat. This is where the Gandhara sculptors worked centuries ago, carving images of the Buddha in stone. For them, every strike of the chisel was more than craft, it was meditation. The Buddha taught that mindfulness can be practiced in every action: walking, breathing, eating, and yes, even carving stone. When your full attention rests in the moment, each gesture becomes sacred. Imagine holding a chisel in your hand, feeling the weight of it, listening to the sound as it meets the rock. The sculptor does not rush, because rushing only breaks the form. Instead, he listens. Doesn't it feel similar to how your own life unfolds the times you force things? Cracks appear, but when you move gently, everything begins to take shape. There is a story told of one Gandhara craftsman who never spoke while he worked. Day after day, he tapped his chisel, creating delicate folds of robes, serene eyes, and curved lips that whispered calm. When asked why he stayed so silent, he answered, "Because the stone listens better than people do." His quirky practice was not isolation, it was communion with the material itself. Could you imagine doing the same in your own life, speaking less, listening more, and letting silence reveal its teachings? As you breathe now, you picture the first contact of chisel and stone, that moment where creation begins. The sculptor is not just cutting away rock, he is revealing what was always within. This is the same teaching the Buddha gave. Enlightenment is not something you add. It is what emerges when you carve away ignorance. Zen masters might ask, what would happen if you treated your own mind like a block of marble, patiently removing what is unnecessary until the truth appears? You hear the rhythm of the chisel again, tap, pause, tap. It is steady, soothing, like rain against a roof. The sculptor does not aim to finish quickly. He knows the form will emerge when it is ready, and you, too, can move through your life this way patiently, mindfully, allowing each moment to be shaped with care. The Buddha's face slowly emerges in the stone, serene, compassionate, timeless, and as you imagine it, you feel something shift inside. Each breath, each pause, each gentle tap of your own awareness is carving you, too, into something softer, calmer, truer. The rhythm of chisels softens in your imagination, and now you notice the workshop itself. It is not noisy, not filled with chatter or hurried commands. Instead, the air hums with a gentle silence, broken only by the tap of tools and the brushing away of stone dust. Dozens of sculptors work side by side, yet few words pass between them. This is the silent workshop, where creation becomes a shared meditation. The Buddha often reminded his followers of noble silence. In silence, the mind finds clarity. In silence, the heart grows steady. When voices are quiet, other sounds emerge: the sweep of a brush, the shift of footsteps, the sound of breath. Here, in the Gandhara workshop, silence is not emptiness. It is fullness, a container holding concentration, respect, and calm. Doesn't it feel true in your own life? That silence often reveals more than words ever could. There is a story told of a sculptor who broke the rule once, singing quietly to himself as he carved. Others listened, and though no one scolded him, he soon fell silent again, realizing that the song distracted him from hearing the stone. His quirky lesson was simple. Sometimes even sweetness, when misplaced, pulls you away from presence. Could it be that some of the noise in your own mind, even pleasant noise, is what keeps you from truly hearing the deeper stillness beneath? As you sit in this imagined workshop, you feel the quiet settling into you. Your breath joins the silence. Your body feels heavier, grounded, calm. Each sculptor's attention adds to the atmosphere. As though the whole room is one collective meditation, the Buddha taught that community, or Sangha, is as important as the teaching itself. In the silence of this workshop, you glimpse why each person's calm strengthens the others. What would it be like if, in your daily life, you sought out not only personal stillness but also communities that nurture peace? You hear again the faint tapping, like 100 small bells ringing in rhythm. Together, they shape not just statues, but the energy of the room itself. The silence between the taps is just as important as the sound, the way space between notes makes music possible. Zen masters might ask, is the art created by the chisel, or by the silence that surrounds each strike? The workshop fades into stillness now, and you feel that silence within yourself, full, alive, nourishing. The Gandhara sculptors remind you that silence is not absence. It is a presence, shared and sustaining, like a lamp that glows without words. The silence of the workshop deepens, and slowly you begin to see what emerges beneath the sculptor's hands. Stone that once seemed cold and unyielding begins to soften into form, the gentle curve of a brow, the calm slope of shoulders, the serene half-smile of the Buddha. The faces of the Buddha appear one by one, each expression carrying something more than stone could hold. Compassion, stillness, an invitation to peace. The Buddha taught that compassion is the natural fruit of awakening. Just as a flower naturally gives fragrance, an awakened heart naturally gives kindness. When the Gandhara sculptors carved the Buddha's face, they were not simply shaping features. They were reminding themselves and anyone who gazed upon the image of the gentle heart within all beings. Isn't it powerful to think that art can hold teachings without words, whispering peace across centuries? There is a story of one sculptor who spent weeks carving only the eyes. He believed the eyes must carry the whole presence of the Buddha, and so he worked slowly, refusing to rush. When asked why he lingered so long, he said, "If the Buddha's gaze does not soften the heart, then it is only stone." His quirky devotion reminds you, sometimes one detail, tended with love, can hold the whole essence. Could you imagine giving such attention to even one small part of your life, polishing it until it shines with compassion? As you picture the workshop, you notice that each statue looks slightly different. Some faces are rounder, some more angular, some smiles wide, others subtle. Yet all carry the same stillness, the same presence. The Buddha taught that while appearances differ, the nature of compassion remains the same. Isn't it comforting to realize that no matter your shape, your age, or your life story, the same gentle essence flows within you? In Tibetan traditions, there is a practice of visualizing the Buddha's face until it feels as if the gaze rests gently on you. The point is not to worship, but to awaken that same expression within your own heart. Imagine now the Buddha's serene eyes meeting yours, not judging, not demanding, only reflecting your own capacity for calm. How would it feel if you met yourself with that same look? Zen masters might ask, is the Buddha's face in the stone, or is it in the heart of the sculptor who reveals it? And when you look at such a face, are you seeing another, or the reflection of your own awakened self? You breathe deeply, and in your imagination, the Buddha's smile appears in the stone before you, gentle, timeless, compassionate, and in that smile, you recognize a truth. You, too, carry this face within you, waiting to be revealed whenever your heart turns toward kindness. The serene faces of the Buddha glow softly in the workshop, but your attention drifts lower to the stone itself. Blocks of marble, slabs of limestone, fragments of rock lie scattered around. Waiting patiently, each carries a hidden form within it. Though unseen for now, the sculptors run their hands across the surface, feeling the grain, sensing the hidden shape. The grain of marble becomes its own teacher. The Buddha often taught patience as a path to wisdom, just as a seed takes time to sprout, just as water shapes valleys only after centuries. A waking unfolds slowly. The sculptor knows this truth. Strike too quickly, and the stone cracks. Press too hard, and the face distorts. Each tap of the chisel is a lesson in patience. In listening, isn't it true that your own life feels the same when you push too hard? Things break, but when you move gently, truth reveals itself. There is a story told of a Gandhara craftsman who spent hours just sitting with a block of marble before ever lifting his tool. He would close his eyes, listening to the stone as if it had a voice. When his apprentices asked what he was doing, he smiled and said, "The Buddha is already inside, I am only waiting for him to speak." This quirky practice reminds you, what if your own inner peace is already there, waiting for you to listen long enough? As you sit in the workshop now, you notice the sculptor's rhythm. They pause often, stepping back, tilting their heads, adjusting. They do not rush, because the stone sets its own pace. The Buddha taught that wisdom is not forcing life to match your plans, it is aligning with what is already unfolding. Could you imagine treating your own challenges this way, less as obstacles to hammer through, and more as stones to listen to carefully? With patience. In Zen monasteries, there is a practice called session days of meditation with no distractions, where silence stretches like a river. Practitioners sometimes describe it as listening deeply, not just to thoughts, but to what lies beneath them. Isn't it striking how similar this is to the sculptor's quiet listening to marble? As you breathe slowly now, you picture your own mind as a block of stone, veins of memory running through it, cracks of old fears, solid weight of experience. And just as the sculptor does not curse the grain, you too can accept the patterns of your life. They are not flaws. They are part of the form that will emerge. Zen masters might ask, is the Buddha created by the sculptor, or simply revealed from the marble? And if your true nature is already present, what happens when you stop forcing and start listening? The chisel taps again, and you see a soft outline emerging: an ear, a shoulder, a gentle curve. Patience has made it possible. The stone itself has guided the hand, and as you rest here, you sense the same in yourself, that with time, stillness, and gentle care, your own hidden form is already waiting to shine through. The outlines of the Buddha emerge more clearly now, but something else begins to dance across the statue's shadows and light. The flickering glow of oil lamps in the workshop stretches across the folds of carved robes, deepening the valleys, softening the edges. At sunrise, beams of golden light enter through cracks in the walls, illuminating the faces so they almost appear alive. The Gandhara sculptors knew this well. Stone is never complete without the play of light and shadow. The Buddha taught impermanence, that all things shift, change, and fade. Even these statues, carved with such devotion, never look the same from one hour to the next. In the morning they glow warmly. In the evening they darken into silhouettes. Under moonlight they seem otherworldly. Isn't it the same with your own mind? Joy and sorrow, clarity and doubt. They pass like shadows moving across your heart, never fixed. There is a story of a sculptor who once carved robes so fine that when the sun moved across them, they looked as though they were fluttering in the breeze. Pilgrims swore the stone was alive. The sculptor laughed, saying, "It is not the stone that moves, it is the light." His quirky lesson carries a quiet truth. Sometimes what you think is change inside you is only the light shifting across the surface. Could it be that your deeper self is as steady as the stone beneath, no matter what moods pass over it? In some Zen temples, monks meditate facing walls that are lit only by a single candle. As the flame flickers, shadows ripple across the stone. The monks are taught to see these shadows as thoughts arising, shifting, dissolving while the wall itself remains unmoved. Imagine trying this. What if every restless thought in your mind was just a shadow cast by a flicker of light, not a truth you need to chase? As you sit in the Gandhara workshop, you notice how the sculptors do not resist the play of light. They work with it, deepening folds where shadows will fall, smoothing surfaces where the glow will rest. They understand that form is only half the art. The other half is the dance of impermanence. The Buddha's teaching of emptiness lives here, too. The statue is not just stone, it is the meeting of stone, light, air, and your gaze. Zen masters might ask, when you see beauty in the statue, is it the stone, the light, or the mind that perceives it? And if each shifts from moment to moment, where is the lasting truth? You breathe gently, and the room around you feels softer. Shadows move across your own imagination, the flicker of memories, the glow of calm, the fading of thought. Like the statues, you are not fixed. You are shaped anew with each breath, each passing light. And so, as the Gandhara sculptors continue their quiet work, you rest in the teaching of shadows and light, impermanence as beauty, change as art, and stillness as the stone beneath it all. The glow of lamps flickers lower, and in the far corner of the workshop you notice something striking. Not every statue stands whole. Some have missing arms, broken noses, or chipped robes. A few are only fragments, just a head, or a hand resting in the dust. Yet even in their brokenness, they carry beauty. The calm gaze remains. The gesture of compassion is still there. These broken statues, too, are teachers. The Buddha taught the truth of suffering not as a curse, but as a doorway. Everything that is born will age, break, and fade. Yet within this cycle lies understanding. Nothing needs to be perfect to carry wisdom. Isn't it true that some of your deepest insights came not from smooth moments, but from times when things cracked open? There is a story of a Gandhara sculptor whose nearly finished Buddha statue fell and shattered. Instead of discarding the pieces, he placed them carefully in the monastery courtyard. Villagers who passed by began to bow before the fragments just as they would before a complete statue. One said, "The Buddha's presence is not lost in brokenness." The sculptor, surprised, realized the accident had become its own teaching. Isn't it curious that sometimes what seems ruined still carries the full presence of peace? In Japan, centuries later, a quirky practice called kintsugi emerged, the art of repairing broken pottery with veins of gold. The cracks were not hidden, they were celebrated. The brokenness made the object more unique, more luminous. Could you imagine treating your own life that way, honoring the cracks, the scars, the breaks, as part of what makes you whole? As you breathe now, think of your own broken statues, moments when you felt incomplete, when life chipped away at you. Can you see that even in those times, your true presence remained? Just like the statue missing its arm, your essence is still intact, still capable of radiating calm. In some Zen monasteries, monks keep old, damaged statues in their meditation halls. They sit with them as a reminder. Form changes, but the teaching remains. Zen masters might ask, if a statue of the Buddha breaks, is the Buddha gone? And if your life feels cracked, does that mean your gentle heart is lost, or could it be shining through the cracks even more clearly? The broken statues in the workshop remind you that imperfection is not failure. It is part of the path. Every chip tells a story. Every fracture reveals resilience. You, too, are like that, shaped by time, softened by breaks, still capable of reflecting peace. As you rest tonight, you can let go of the need to be flawless. The Buddhist gaze is still present, even in fragments, and your own presence, too, is whole even if carried within a body or a life that feels less than perfect. The workshop grows quiet again, and now your eyes settle on the hands of the statues. Some rest gently in their laps. Some extend outward in offering. Some touch the earth as if calling it to witness. These are the mudras, gestures carved in stone, each one a meditation captured in stillness. The Buddha taught that body, speech, and mind are all parts of practice. A hand gesture, when made with awareness, can carry the same depth as a sermon. The sculptors of Ganara knew this. Every curve of a finger, every placement of a palm, was chosen with care. They were not just carving hands, they were carving teachings. Imagine your own hands for a moment. How often do you use them without awareness? Typing, scrolling, reaching, yet each gesture could also be a reminder of calm. There is a story told of a sculptor who spent weeks shaping only a single hand in the earth, touching mudra, the Buddha's fingers extended toward the ground. His apprentices asked why he labored so long over one detail. He smiled and said, "Because this is the moment of awakening. If the hand does not touch the earth, the whole statue is asleep." His quirky devotion reminds you that sometimes one small gesture holds the whole heart of practice. Could you imagine that a simple movement of your hand, offering, touching, resting, might be your own way of waking up? In some Zen traditions, practitioners fold their hands in the cosmic mudra while meditating, palms together, thumbs lightly touching, forming an oval of stillness. They say this gesture gathers the mind, like a bowl holding water. The position may seem small, but it can transform the entire state of being. Isn't it fascinating that something so subtle can anchor so deeply? As you breathe now, picture the carved hands before you, stone palms offering blessings, stone fingers tracing calm. Each one whispers without words. Be still. Be present. Be kind. Zen masters might ask, when you see the Buddha's hands in stone, are they only gestures of a statue, or are they reflections of your own potential to embody peace? You might notice your own hands resting as you listen, perhaps folded, perhaps lying gently at your sides. What if you treated this position not as random, but as a mudra of your own, a gesture of rest, of receiving, of being? The Gandhara sculptors remind you, art is not only about faces and forms, it is about the language of hands, still and silent, yet filled with meaning. Tonight, as you drift toward rest, you can let your own hands become part of the meditation, quiet symbols of peace. Resting gently, holding nothing, needing nothing. The carved hands fade softly in your mind, and now you notice how the workshop itself speaks without sound. The Gandhara sculptors rarely gave sermons, yet their statues carried teachings across centuries. Each fold of a robe, each tilt of a head, each curve of a lip whispered the Dharma silently. This is teaching through silence, art that transmits wisdom without a single word. The Buddha often reminded his disciples that truth is beyond words. Language points the way, but the essence must be lived and felt. A statue cannot speak, yet when you stand before it, the stillness enters you, the calm gaze steadies you, and something shifts inside. Isn't it remarkable how silence sometimes teaches more than speech? There is a story of a traveler who entered a monastery and sat before a Gandhara Buddha. He asked no questions. The monks offered no explanations. Hours later he rose, bowed, and said only, "I understand." No lecture, no scripture, only the silent presence of carved stone guiding his heart. It may seem quirky, but have not you felt the same with a painting, a song, or even a quiet sunset, that wordless understanding that needed no explanation? In Zen tradition, there is a practice called mokurai, or silent thunder. It is the paradox of silence so deep it reverberates like sound. Monks sometimes meditate in halls filled with statues, letting the silent figures become their teachers. Imagine sitting in such a hall, rows of serene Buddhas watching over you, not speaking, yet each one echoing the same reminder. Be still. Be awake. As you breathe now, notice how silence teaches you to No need for commentary, no need for constant thought. Just the act of listening to quiet reveals its own lesson. Peace is already here, hidden beneath the noise. Zen masters might ask, is the teaching in the statue, in the silence, or in your own awareness that receives it? The Gandhara sculptors carved with chisel and patience. But their truest art was the transmission of silence. Each statue was a mirror, inviting the viewer to discover calm within themselves. And tonight, as you listen in your own silence, you feel that same transmission, a soft presence wrapping around you, teaching without words, guiding without effort. The silence lingers, but now your focus shifts to the rhythm of the sculptors themselves. Watch closely. Every strike of the chisel rises and falls with their breathing. Inhale, steady the hand. Exhale, tap the stone. The sound of carving blends seamlessly with the sound of breath, as though the two are not separate. This is the sculptor's breath art and meditation woven together. The Buddha often compared mindfulness to breathing. Breath is constant, reliable, always here. To follow the breath is to return home to the present moment. The sculptors embodied this teaching without needing words. Their chisels followed the same rhythm as their lungs, carving not just statues but calmness into their own hearts. Isn't it soothing to think that something as simple as breath can guide even the most delicate work? There is a story of a craftsman who claimed he could hear the stone breathe back. He said that when he matched his own breath to the pauses in his carving, the stone seemed to respond more gently, splitting only where it needed to. His apprentices laughed at the quirk, but they later noticed that his figures never cracked. His faces never broke. Could it be that when you, too, move with breath instead of against it, life flows more easily? In Zen practice, there is a meditation called Susakukan, the counting of breaths. Monks breathe in, breathe out, counting softly up to 10, then returning again. The practice is simple, yet powerful. It steadies the mind like a sculptor's hand. Imagine trying this yourself. Inhale, feel the fullness. Exhale, let go. Count gently, then begin again. Would your day feel more grounded if you carved it in rhythm with your breath? As you imagine the Gandhara workshop, you hear it differently now, not just chisels on stone, but an orchestra of breathing, each sculptor moving with their own cadence, yet harmonizing together. The entire hall becomes a meditation stone, dust rising and falling like incense smoke, breath mingling with silence. Zen masters might ask, is the art in the statue, or in the breath that gave it form? And if every action you take is tied to your breathing, could it be that you are already sculpting your own life with each inhale and exhale? You place your attention on your own body now. Feel the breath entering, cool and steady. Feel it leaving, soft and warm. Imagine each exhale as a chisel stroke, gently carving away what you no longer need: tension, worry, restlessness. With each inhale, imagine the form within you becoming clearer, calmer, truer. The sculptor's breath continues endlessly, patient, steady, gentle, and as you follow your own breath tonight, you sense that you, too, are being shaped into stillness. The workshop grows still, the chisels are set aside, the lamps flicker low, and yet the statues remain rows of Buddhas gazing softly into the timeless silence. Their eyes are half closed, their lips curved in faint smiles, their postures steady as mountains. This is the timeless gaze of the Gandhara sculptor's work. Centuries may pass, kingdoms may rise and fall, but the Buddha's calm expression remains, whispering peace across generations. The Buddha taught that awakening is beyond time. Birth and death, change and decay, all belong to the flow of impermanence. But the truth of awareness, the clarity of compassion, is not bound by the clock. When you look into the serene face of a statue carved long ago, You are meeting the same stillness that lived in the sculptor's heart, and in the Buddha's heart before him. Isn't it extraordinary that a moment of calm from centuries ago can reach you now? Steadying your breath, there is a story of a traveler who, weary from his journey, entered a crumbling temple and sat before a weathered Gandhara Buddha. Rain dripped through holes in the roof. Moss clung to the stone. The nose of the statue was long broken, yet as he sat, he felt watched over, as if the Buddhist gaze was still alive. He rose hours later, refreshed, whispering, "The face is not stone, it is my own heart reflected." His quirky realization was simple but profound. The timeless gaze is not in the statue alone, but in the one who receives it. Could it be that when you soften your own face, when your eyes relax, when a smile touches your lips, you are carrying the Buddha-esque gaze forward? In Zen, teachers sometimes ask students to meditate before an image of the Buddha, not to worship, but to mirror. Sit until your face matches his, they say. At first, it sounds impossible, but slowly, as the breath steadies and the mind quiets, you realize your own features soften into the same calm. Imagine that now, your brow smooth, your eyes half closed, your mouth gently curved, as if your own body has become a sculpture of peace. As you breathe tonight, you carry this gaze within you. Every inhale deepens the stillness. Every exhale polishes the calm. Zen masters might ask, is the Buddhist gaze in the stone, or in the space between breaths, or in the awareness that sees both? The Gandhara sculptors, with their chisels and patience, left behind more than statues. They left a mirror for the heart, a reminder that serenity is not something to be made, it is something revealed, waiting quietly beneath the surface. And so, as your breath slows, feel every worry slip away, like leaves floating down a quiet stream. The timeless gaze is here, watching gently, guiding softly. Peace is here, always has been,